All right, welcome back to Morning Express. It is time for Your Money, and we'll be discussing money rules on the show this morning. In studio for this conversation is Waithaka Gatumia, who is a financial consultant and general manager at Autonomy. Many thanks for joining us in studio, Waithaka. And it's an interesting one today, money rules. Who knew money had rules?
I think like anything else in this world, there are rules to follow, rules that dictate how things work. And when you begin to understand those rules and you follow those rules, I was really enjoying watching the sports news just before this. There are rules that govern how those guys do what they're doing. You don't follow the rules, the likelihood of you losing is very high. If you follow the rules and the ones that you know, then you're good. I have a good friend who plays rugby, and he says there's the rules around rugby. But you know, when you're on the pitch, you can be a little bit cheeky. So there are some rules you can bend a little bit. And then there's some rules you can actually break. If the ref doesn't see along the way, there's some that you can be able to do, but all in good faith. And so when we talk about rules that you can follow, bend, or break, we're not saying break the law. No, 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 no. It's the rules that we have grown up being taught, the rules that we were taught in school, the rules that we were taught in our homes. Those are the ones that we are talking about. There are some that you have to follow. You have to follow in order to get there. There are some that as a society we must begin to bend, and then there are some that we must break in order to gain financial success.
All right. So before we start, I don't know if this would be a rule to bend or a rule to break, but it is a rule of wealth creation that I found on your website on Autonomy, and I find it rather interesting. What you don't like about your money situation, you created it. So accept that it is your fault. Before you start your journey, you need to accept that you are responsible for the financial mess that you are in. And once you realize that, then only you have the power to change it. So would the first rule then being taking responsibility?
That's it. In fact, I should just leave now. You finished the whole discussion
I'm trying to be a good student.
You're doing excellent. That's exactly it. You know why that rule is so important? Because if it is somebody else's responsibility for where you are, your boss, society, your parents, sometimes we blame God for the situation that we're in.
The government.
We blame the government. Kenyans, Sirikali, every single time your employer, if it is their responsibility, then I can do absolutely nothing about my current situation. But if I own it and I say, you know what, there's some decisions that I've made in my life that have made me land right here, then I take ownership of it and I can say, then you know what, if I made a decision to be here, then I can make a decision to be elsewhere. And once you do that, then you're on the journey to success. That is a rule to follow, guaranteed.
All right, so many would ask then, so if I don't blame my employer for my financial situation, because the problem is my employer is not paying me enough, and I don't blame the government, which I always blame for, you know, the state of the economy, then how do I get more money in my pocket when I stop blaming them?
That's such a beautiful question. Thank you. Here's the thing. What value are you to your boss or to society? In this very same Kenya that people are complaining and being paid minimum wage, maybe 15,000 or whatever it is that they're being paid, are there other Kenyans in this country being paid 15 million shillings? There are. What is it that they are bringing to the table that I am not bringing? And, you know, in this country, it's very easy, you know, to start blaming everybody else, corruption, everything. You know, there's always a reason somebody else is where they are. But I honestly believe that if you bring value to whatever place that you are, then money will find you. That's another rule that you can start thinking about. Instead of looking for money, look for what? Value. Because whatever people value, they give money to. If you value that nice pair of shoes that you're wearing right now, you paid a lot of money for it, isn't it? If you value your employee and the employee, you want to keep them in your employment, then you pay them well, you give them perks that they're going to stay with. And it's across the board. There's a gentleman we spoke about a couple of weeks ago who started off as a sweeper in an organization. And the thing about, as a cleaner in that office, there are a couple of them. Next thing, everyone seemed to notice when he's cleaning that office, the next day that office is spotless. So guess what? He was given the job to manage the rest of the cleaners. So it makes sure that no one, the standard is his standard. And before you knew it, because he was given that managerial experience, he now took that experience and started his own cleaning business. Do you get what I'm talking about? So he was not looking for the money. He was looking for what? Value. If you're not valued by your employer, then they'll not pay you a lot of money. If you're valued, then they'll keep you there. Even you, come on, Kenyans, we have house helps in our home. Haven't you seen ladies? Talk to the ladies, you know, who are sitting at home. There are some house helps you don't want to let go. So in fact, you even give them more leave. You tell them, it's okay, go, but you come back because they have brought value to your home. You trust them with your children, with your belongings. And wherever there is value, money follows.
Right.
That's
right.
it. Yes.
Okay. So you have money. You have, you've made, a considerable amount of money after you've stopped blaming everybody for your problems. But they always say a fool with money is not really a successful person because they will lose the money. So in terms of accountability, with the money you have, how do you keep accountable as to what is keeping money in your pocket and what is taking money from your pocket?
So this is the thing. When it comes to the discussion that we're having now around money and around wealth creation, we must understand. We talked about create value and money will follow you. Then you must understand what do you really value yourself. And that's where you will put your money. Right. So you begin to talk about, if I value my kids, then I start putting aside money for their education, isn't it? If I value my family, then I start thinking, what are the things that will give my family security? Right. Do you get what I'm talking about? So that you're not just thinking, and we've seen it so many times when people have made a lot of money rapidly. Then they're shocked by all this wonderful wealth that they have that they think is endless. And you know what? It is not endless. Right. There's always something else that you can be able to buy. So you start with value, money finds you. Then you figure out, what do I value? And when you figure out that's where you put your money. And you begin to invest towards the things that you value. And so sometimes it may be even as simple things as you look very wonderful today.
Thank you.
And there's some people who value, how I look. And that's not a bad thing. And you know them. You know, there are those people in the office who they look excellent.
Day in, day out.
And so if they value that, then you put money behind such a thing. You get what I'm talking about? So what you value is where you put your money. And then please, 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 get the education to manage that money. Those who have made money quickly, spend it quickly if they don't have the right advice around them. And that's the education that we're talking about. Right. And that's what Centonomy is all about. We're here to empower you in order that whatever you have and whatever you're able to create, it always goes towards the things that you value.
All right. Yes. So let me take you back a bit. You create value and money follows you. And when you get the money, you find something you value and put the money there.
Yes.
But like you mentioned, if I like expensive cars, I may go and buy a car for me to drive.
Correct.
And that is not very financially sustainable if I keep buying cars and cars because that's where I'm putting my money. So again, in terms of what you value and whether what you value is bringing in returns.
Correct.
Where do you put your money?
And so this is the thing. I'm a huge fan of cars. I love cars.
Right.
And one day I want to drive one of those. You know the ones the exotic ones, those ones that we're talking about here. But I understand that I have other things that I also value. But if I am to drive one of those vehicles, which is in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with it.
Absolutely.
How can I do that sustainably? So it is not the car that is going to sustain the value that I have in it. It is being able to build assets that can support the lifestyle that allows me to drive that car.
Right.
When somebody is a millionaire, billionaire in this country, and they're driving that car, it is not the car that is sustaining itself. They have property elsewhere where they're receiving rent that pays for the tires, and everything about that car is paying the loan off for that car. So they've built up resources that allow you to begin to live that lifestyle. So when we are teaching, we're telling you, okay, you value cars, great. How can you have that car sustainably?
Right.
It means then you must have another source of income, a source of wealth that can pay for you to have that car and to drive it sustainably, rather than taking massive loans that you're paying off, then you're feeling guilty, then you're just sad, then there's nothing happening there. What joy is there in that?
Right.
And it's about joy when we're talking about this.
And then at the end of the day, with that cash flow is very important because you could have money in January and come March, you have no money. So how, again, after getting that money, do you ensure that you make it work for you? It brings in more money in February, it brings in more money for the rest of the year.
Yes. So here, we have moved now wonderfully into the second part. These are some of the money rules that we learnt as children, that we learnt within our culture that we need to begin to bend. Many times, everyone is beginning to think, and we've been talking about it since December last year into this January, and everyone is saying, how do we manage the little things that we have? Good. The little money that has come in, do well to manage it and make sure that you're putting it where it is required to be. Good. But can we stay there any longer? No. maybe 2 generations ago, maybe my parents' generation, where, you know, my dad tells me when he was finishing college, there was a job waiting for him. In fact, many people were being hired when they were in university. If you had a university degree, that was life. You know what I mean? That you had a job. Nowadays, there are over 100,000 university students coming out. Does that mean you're going to get a job? No. And when you get a job, there's a lot of competition. So here's the thing. What used to work where you enter a job and that is your career path until you retire. You can be even in one organization until the day you retire. That doesn't work anymore because most likely you're going to change jobs. Along the way, what else can you be doing? Michelle, I'm telling you, you have weekends that you're not so busy. After this, when you leave the office right now, and you know you have such a wonderful shift that ends right now, then you're awake during the day when you can do lots of things. What are you going to be doing for the next couple of hours? And this is a time to begin to think, am I gifted in something else that I can begin to do? Can I go out there and do, let's say, some baking? Can I do some creative work? Can I begin to sell clothes? And this is what Kenyans are doing, and I applaud you Kenyans who have gone out and gotten the entrepreneurial spirit even while you are employed. Because originally it is you are employed and that's all you do. No. Nowadays, if your contract allows and if there's no conflict of interest, it's time to think, when I switch off at 5 o'clock or whatever time you get off work like yourself, what else can I be doing? Because if you're doing something else, that is the extra wealth that is going to begin to sustain you and to begin to get you beyond just the survival stage. We can't just be surviving. We must be thriving. That's what we're looking for.
And that's an interesting one because many people, especially the employed, you get out of work and you're so tired. You've gone through hours of traffic. And when you get home, you just want to sleep and think about working the next day. And at the end of the day, you haven't done anything for yourself. But other than that, when you have money, in fact, the very possibility of getting money, many would say, you know, I can't do this because I need about 50 million shillings. But 50 million shillings will never just drop on your lap one day. It's not a deal. It has to be some sort of process. How does one remain committed and, most importantly, patient through that process?
Wow. One of the, your questions are great this morning. I'm enjoying this. Because you have gotten to the core of a problem that we have when it comes to money. We don't know what we want. When you know what you want and you're clear about it, you head towards that target without compromise. And that's a huge issue. Many people don't know what they want. You just said a number, 50 million. That is an exact number. You know, when you know what 50 million is, then you work backwards. And you say, I want 50 million. What do I have to do in order to get 50 million? It's the same thing like weight loss. You know, it's the beginning of the year, everybody's in the gym right now. But the ones who don't have a plan for what they're aiming for, which is, let's say, to lose 10 kgs or whatever it is, if you're just in the gym, then what is driving you? Exactly. So you said 50 million. What does 50 million mean? You work backwards and say, I need to sell how many bags of potatoes in order to get 50 million? I need to do how many gigs? You people in the media will do a lot of maybe MC work or different things. How many gigs will it take for you to make 50 million shillings? Not just the gigs, but also the investment that comes from the gigs. Do you get what I'm talking about? So it gives you a target that you're aiming for. And the one thing you mentioned just now, if you don't mind me talking about, you said when you get home, you're tired after work, you don't have energy and all these various things. We had a session now with some doctors recently talking about our energy levels. And they talk about the fact that we have low energy because we don't eat right. We have low energy because we don't exercise. And therefore, by the time you're getting home at 5, you've been sitting in front of a computer the whole day. Obviously, then you will not have energy. So people are beginning to say, if you're going to become wealthy, then you need the energy to begin to do it. So I'm encouraging everyone now, get up in the morning, a few minutes before, a few hours before than you usually would. Do some exercise, do some reading, then go to work. That exercise and reading will empower you for the work that you're going to do, and it'll give you energy. And then at the end of the day, I know I'm on TV and I should not be saying this, but don't spend 5 hours just looking at the screen like this the whole day.
We advocate for that.
I know you advocate for it, but do something else. I know, come home, watch the news, yes, for that 1 hour, you know what I mean? But what else can you do? Go to sleep early. The reason that you're tired in the morning is because you didn't sleep on time.
Right.
So if you have a target and you have a goal, then you're going to, everything that you're doing along the way will be in line with that goal and that target.
All right, so you know what you want and you work backwards to achieve it.
Correct.
But is it also important to know, for example, I need to know why I want to make that 50 million shillings?
Correct.
Must you know why you want to make money?
100%, 100%. The what without the why makes no sense. Because if I came and said 50 million, so then
so
now,
you get it,
so you get the 50 million, then what? Do you get what I'm saying? What does that 50 million shillings do for your life? It means, therefore, if I have 50 million, then I can put it into an investment. If that investment is giving me a return of about 10% a year, that means I have an income of about 10%, 5 million shillings every year. What does a 5 million shillings income per year allow me to do? And Michelle, I think you like cars because you mentioned it earlier. That 5 million shilling will allow you to drive what car? What car is it that you like to drive?
Probably one of the best Audis.
There you go.
I love that car.
There you go, and probably an SUV, you know, so that you're looking over everybody else as you're driving. Do you see what I mean? It says that, and what else does it mean? Because sometimes, you know, you look at it and say that car only means a certain thing. It gives you a sense of pride.
It does.
Not only that, but it also helps in terms of it protects your children. You can probably carry a lot more people around and many other things.
Right.
Many times people think about wealth creation as a very selfish thing, but let me tell you.
A moment, but many thanks for speaking to us, Waithaka. And that brings us to a close on Your Money and a close on Morning Express this morning. Many thanks for watching. My name is Michelle Ngele. Do stay tuned to KTN News, where you get the whole story. News Center with Betty Kello is coming up next.